just like the Guardians drew it up back in spring training. Matthew Boyd comes in and leads the Guardians to another series win, the gem of a pitched game. It is time to ride the roller coaster that is the Guardians and Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and everyone. Welcome to the game. Welcome to the show today. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use the code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for first deposit match up to $100.
Matthew Boyd, rotation savior, is here. Shuts down the Cubs. We'll get into Matthew Boyd's debut, and we have to eat some words because we said we felt more comfortable with Alex Cobb than we did Matthew Boyd, and apparently we were very wrong. We'll talk about that. Jhonkensy Noel carries the Guardians offense. The big three in Emmanuel Clase. Fourth day in a row. We'll get into that. And finally, we're going to get into some minor league news and some observations, promotions today as well.
Yeah. It's a fun time to be a Guardians fan. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Jeff Ellis, one of your two co-hosts, an OG host here on the MLB side of the Locked On Network. I want to give a shout out to Xavier, who we're working on the Pandora issue to Everyday or Savior. But to go back into my whole spiel, before this, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst nationally at Scouting 24/7. Before that, I was your 13th favorite writer at every Cleveland sports blog that has or will exist.
13. That's not a good lucky number, Jeff. I don't like that. I'm just
Neither do the Royals
here. Oh yeah, things are falling apart for the Royals. If you want to get real down about a team, go look at the Royals box score from Tuesday night. Except they lost to the Twins, which doesn't really make things better for Twitter or for the standings, but it is what it is. I'm just Laddie, their co-host, and I haven't been here as long as Jeff, but I have been here close to 2 years now. We're getting close to that timeline almost. I can't believe it. You're having places like Guardians Baseball Insider, where I was the editor at one point before the ship crashed like the Royals, I guess. The News Herald, the Morning Journal, and Prospects Live occasionally. Shout out to our buddy Jeff Ponce, who was in Lake County on Tuesday. We were talking about maybe getting him on the show Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. Speaking of Lake County, shout out to the captain's crew. I know they're watching this episode in the ticket sales cave in Classic Auto Group Park. Bryce, Lama, and John. This is very, very preliminary, so don't run with this and say it's happening or anything, but this is just a throw out here. Going to throw out the fishing reel and see who's interested. But we're talking about maybe at least for me, it's hard for Jeff to get to Ohio at this point in the year, but the captains have a playoff game on September 12th. And we're talking about maybe doing like a Locked On meetup where I'll be in Classic Auto Group Park for that game. We might try to dial up Jeff virtually, and we want to see what Locked On listeners might want to show for the playoff game. That is September 12th. It's a Thursday. So if you're interested in that, hit me up on the comments on YouTube or on Twitter if you can find me. If that's something you're interested in, we might try to set something up where I'm there, and if we can dial Jeff up, we'll see. But I know the guys at Classic Park really, really want to do it, and I know they're sitting there watching the show live today. So appreciate you guys out at Classic Auto Group Park and the captains, where things are a lot of fun right now. Ralphie, Bazana, Hanau, Kozart. We'll get into that later in the show.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun players, even if they're not performing. Again, just like a week ago when I cautioned everyone to not overreact to 1 week of data, I also want to caution, don't overreact to anyone's playing the minors after 2 weeks.
Yeah, fair. We'll talk about that a little bit. It's been a tough go for Travis Bazana, unfortunately, but we'll get into more of that. A guy it hasn't been tough for is Matthew Boyd. I mean, again, I know people are like, oh, why are you negative? Let's caution and say, I don't know if every Matt Boyd start is going to be like that, but I don't know if you could have expected him to be this good at all this season. I mean, if you had told me he was going to pitch one game like this all year, we're talking 5 1/3, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, no walks, and control is the last thing that comes back for most guys when you have Tommy John surgery. And the Guardians didn't change his pitch mix. He is thrown up with the same velocity he's pretty much always thrown with. 12 swings and misses. At one point I was watching the game, I think he was throwing 55 strikes and 15 balls. I hope that's contagious because God, the rest of the Guardians pitching staff, maybe minus Tanner, needs that. Ben Lively's walked 4 in back-to-back starts. Logan and Tristan, when they were in the rotation, were obsessed with throwing 50-50, and Gavin sometimes, and we'll see about Cobb. But I don't know how you can ask for anything better than that. Again, if you would have told me he was going to make one start like that all year, let alone his first start, I think the Guardians would have been thrilled, right?
Yeah, and again, I just want to go out of my way to point out they saw stuff. They, I was wrong here. I mean, I don't want to go so far to say as they denigrated him, but I was not a believer this was going to happen. I think I literally on the show said something like, if we're counting on Boyd, we're in trouble. I was looking for anyone past him because throughout his career, he's been, at peak a 4, a 5. He's just not really been a consistent solid starter. And he had a great pitch mix. He was working, it was the best of Matt Boyd.
Through strikes.
And this Cubs team is a pretty good lineup. It's not a terrible lineup which is weird. This is not a bad Cubs team. They're a team we talk about a team that is better than the sum of its parts. Somehow this is a team that's worse than the sum of its parts, which I don't know how that is, but they are. And I think, he looked good today against a pretty good lineup, and he gives them, a different look right now with Logan Allen down there. Gives them a more consistent southpaw, and it was very encouraging. But the same way, I'm not going to knee jerk Alex Cobb's one bad pitch outing, which some people in our comments want to act like he got booted in the first inning. I'm not going to also be like, they found an ace. I'm just going to be solid performance. And, I'm going to stay even keel and be okay, hopefully he's going to keep doing this. There'll be ups, there'll be downs. If he can be another Ben Lively-esque type, I am calling it a win.
I'm saying he's starting game 3 of the ALDS. Matt Boyd, game 3 ALDS starter.
I mean, I will say depends on who they're facing, right? It really depends on, I think, that third pitcher. It's just way far in advance to think about, but it's what are they better against, lefties or righties? There is a world where it literally comes down to who they're facing. And okay, this team's is, dog poop versus lefties. We're going to throw Boyd. They're really bad against righties. We're going to throw, Cobb or Lively. We'll have to wait and see. But I think it's one of those things that might be more dependent on who you face than who you got.
I mean, 80 pitches to get through 5 1/3 innings. We've seen guys Carlos Carrasco is thrown, not to denigrate Carrasco more than he already has been for the most part, but we've seen him throw 80 pitches in 3 innings. This is a nice breath of fresh air for the fans, but also a breath of fresh air for anybody covering the team, because just when you throw that many pitches early in the game, it makes for very long baseball games. And there is nothing worse than I love baseball, and I will watch it over any other sport. But when you have pitchers who are throwing 80 pitches in 3 innings, it is very hard when you're, watching it and covering it. It's very difficult. So to see what he was able to do against that Cubs lineup, and maybe guys will lay off the stuff when they see him more, that he's been back. I mean, the teams haven't seen him for over a year now, and when the last time they saw him, he was hurt, so he was not good. It's been a while since the league has seen Matthew Boyd being even a league average pitcher, which, like you said, his peak was essentially slightly above league average. But I mean, he's been this is one of their best performances by a pitcher outside of Tanner and Gavin last week. McKenzie hasn't thrown this well. Carrasco's never had a game this good all year. Ben Lively's had a couple of games this good all year. This is one of their best starting pitching performances of the year, Jeff. I don't think you can ignore that. This rotation has been, this is the best. This might be the best non-Bibby Lively start of the year. I guess Gavin starts Saturday, and Gavin starts Saturday was really good. It's a top 5 pitching performance all year. It's top 5.
I will point out last year, one of the top 5 pitching performances by any starter on the team was Hunter Gaddis, who had a miserable year. So again, I'm not going to dive in on full
but
force.
They needed it. They needed it. They only scored 2 runs. One was
they did. No, I mean he was great. I also don't want to be the negative Nelly here. I'm just saying It was a great performance. I got to see more. I am always a doubting Thomas. I always got to see more.
No, I definitely agree with you there. But they needed every good pitch he threw tonight on Tuesday because Andres Gimenez, thank God for his base running, because he got to third on a ball and then ended up scoring on that Rocchio bunt, which was a very weird situation, but it worked. You forced the defense to make a play, so that's great. And Gimenez is a good base runner, so that really worked out well for them. And then you got Big Christmas bringing presents to the baseball yard, which was a lot of fun. And we got to get into the big three. And
if you make a mistake, he will make you pay. Eventually, I still think teams will figure it out. But you write it while he's hot. Oscar Gonzalez did it for an entire year. Why can't Noel?
Yeah, I mean, Oscar Gonzalez won them 2 playoff games in 2022.
And Noel's a better prospect.
Yes, for all the people who think we don't like Jhonkensy Noel, the issue comes down to one thing for Jhonkensy Noel. It's one thing. Like, he's passable in the outfield. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, you want him. You're never going to put him in as a defensive replacement in the outfield. And I think in a lead, you don't want to have him playing all 9 innings. But there's one big issue with Noel, and it's his chase rate. That is the only thing that is stopping him from being, what Franmil Reyes was supposed to be. It's the chase rate. When pitchers throw a ball in the zone like Drew Smyly did, the guy threw a middle knuckle curve, and Jhonkensy Noel is going to eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all day, and he did that, and thank God he did for the Guardians' sake, because they needed all of it. But yeah, ride him while it's hot, and he's got a place on this team. It's just going to come down to how much he can restrain himself from chasing out of the zone. I mean, he did it that home run the other day on a ball that was at his shins, and if he can do that, then you know what, pitchers are screwed. But we'll see where pitchers find a way to throw to him where he swings and can't do any damage, or if he stays disciplined. So we'll talk more about Noel. We'll talk more about the bullpen, and we'll get into those minor league moves we promised as well on the rest of today's Lockdown Guardians. I know summer is winding down. The temperatures in Ohio have not been as hot recently. They were the week we got hit by tornadoes. Not having AC in a tornado, not great. Or after a tornado, I should say, in the summer, not great. But I need to keep my sanity without the power, and one of the best ways to keep your sanity is to be hydrated at all times. No matter what you're doing, hydration is important. Even when you're watching baseball, of course, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker, a surefire summer hit. Summer's winding down. It is still one of the best tasting things you can do to get your hydration. I talked about it. I used it last year for my wedding, leading up to the wedding all week, because we were setting up, we were having fun. We had to tear down the next day. We were doing it all on our own, and it was hot, and we just had a lot to do. So we needed to stay hydrated to get through that and be ready for our travel. So Terrapure, Live More, 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. No more thirsty summers. It's August. It's the dog days when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com. Use code MLB at checkout. 20% off your first order for great tasting hydration when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com.
And now I'm going to talk to you about Prize Picks. Right now, Prize Picks is giving you one for free. They're giving you a free box, essentially. They're giving you one that you can just mark free money. If you want to take more, because it's your only option, against Israel Adesanya. Listen, I don't do MMA, but they're saying that 0.5 significant strikes, that he has to land 1 significant strike. The normal over-under is 100.5. So they're giving you this one for free. You just click more. It's an auto win. What more do I need to say? That's quite good. You have an auto win going on. Over on the baseball side of things, I kind of like 4 strikeouts doing the more for Dean Kremer tomorrow. I know he hasn't been spectacular, but Washington has a lot of guys who swing a lot, and the Mets have been struggling. Joey Estes has been a bit of a surprising pitcher, pitching quite well of late, so I kind of like the more on him as well. If any of these appeal to you, head to Prize Picks today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
after you are done watching Locked On Guardians. And thank you for making us your first listen wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Check out our pal Sully over at Locked On MLB, getting you up to date on all the division races. Probably talking about how the Royals are getting destroyed by the Twins. Whether that's a good thing or not for different reasons. And, maybe he's talking about the Yankees blowout loss tonight to the White Sox, where old friend Enel De Los Santos got lit up. Our pal Sully's got you covered for all of that on Locked On MLB, wherever you get podcasts, and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to go back to Jhonkensy Noel real quick, Jeff. Everyone's like, oh, Jhonkensy Noel's got to play every day. It's got to play every day. And I don't disagree with that right now. I just, right, again, like we said, ride him while he's hot. Again, we keep saying the chase rate is the one thing that stops him from being what Franmil Reyes was supposed to be. If he can, player approaches and discipline is the hardest thing to teach. You can help guys with pitch recognition. You can make swing changes, all that kind of stuff. The hardest thing to do in player development, most people talk about, is approach. Guys who are just prone to swing a lot, and that's just the kind of player they are. It's hard to change. Look at Javi Baez over the years. He never changed, and the contact skills have eroded. The skills in general have eroded. Now it's terrible. Unless you're Vlad Guerrero, unless you're Salvador Perez, and even those guys don't run a 51% chase rate. But again, doesn't matter. He helped the Guardians win on Tuesday when they needed it. He helped them win on Monday when they needed it. So yeah, play him every day, especially because I know you got a big case here about getting David Fry some time off to get him right and fix this roster in the short term. Yeah, play Noel every day. I'm just saying, he's going to have games like he's on a heater right now, but he's also going to have games where you get frustrated because he is chasing everything. And I think teams are going to learn above the zone and to the left-handed batter's box is where he struggles. But if he hangs around long enough to get a mistake, he's going to crush him. And that's a valuable role on this team. It's a valuable role on a big league roster. It can be a game-changing skill tool in the playoffs. So yeah, play him every day and just, hope you can ride out the heater. I think he's better against lefties. And I like the idea of also having him, like we said, this is what would happen with David Fry early in the year. Remember how everyone was like, play David Fry every day. And they did that. And I don't know how much the injury is impacting what he isn't able to do. At this point, he is definitely burning up a roster spot in some respects because of it. But you also want to be careful not to overexpose Noel. I think you should play him more because of the David Fry issue, but also be careful about exposing him too much because this is also what happened to David Fry early in the year.
Yeah, David Fry has been, I believe, the worst hitter versus right-handed pitching since mid-June. I'm just put it very bluntly. He's been Miles Straw since June. That's what he has been offensively. There's some home runs and things to balance it, but when you look at his weighted runs created plus, he's a guy who's in the 50s. This is really bad, and he's hitting in the heart of the order. Against lefties, he's still like a 118, 120. So he's fine. But with Fry, there's multiple issues. Let's get really honest with this and get down to it. One, the injury means he can't catch. He's only a DH. You have a DH who should only be a part-time DH. Having him hit in the middle of your lineup just makes against righties makes no sense. You're killing your flow. You're okay. You got your two best hitters, the two guys you can really count on, two of the three guys you can count on, and then Fry can come in and just essentially be an auto out like he was tonight. He struck out, I believe, twice. I don't understand why they haven't adjusted this with him. And then the other problem is, I know a lot of people get mad about Austin Hedges. Go back and listen to our interview with Andre where Jose Ramirez asked them to bring back Austin Hedges and said the team was missing that. Go back to read the things where they're amazed by the leadership that Cole Calhoun brought you. I am the king of stats. I am a stats nerd to the nth degree, but there are intangibles you can't just measure with numbers. And Hedges brings those. And Hedges has been overexposed too because Fry's hurt. Hedges should not be playing as much as he is. He wouldn't be playing that way if Fry could catch, which he can't. So it's kind of a catch-22. At this point in time, I say put Fry on the disabled list. You have Fry and Noel are essentially kind of similar roles when healthy as some right-handed bat. So let him get healthy. Maybe he could, get some time to rest, heal up a bit. Maybe he could then be an option at catcher. Maybe this gives you a chance to bring up Manzardo and try to bring some balance, or give Valera that opportunity, since you got to, poop or get off the pot with him. You have some decisions that can be made. Right now, David Fry, 80% of the time you face right-handed pitching. So 80% of the time he's the worst hitter in baseball, and you have that in the middle of your lineup. I don't get it. I don't understand. They rode the hot bat. Unlike, Martinez, who they sent out. People are calling for Martinez to come back up. He has struggled. His chase rate got out of control. They have called up these young guys, rode the hot bat, and sent them down. I don't know why we're letting a beat-up Fry, and we know he's beat up, be the worst hitter in baseball against righties in the heart of your lineup.
Yeah, I will say Fry is important to this team for a lot of reasons. He is important to this team in the locker room. Guys love David Fry. We've heard, you love his story, you love his grit, his determination, and he's incredibly versatile and valuable when he's 100% healthy, and he's clearly not right now, as they continue to allude to. I mean, the biggest thing you can look at for an indicator is, again, what's the last time he caught? I think he's caught one game since like the All-Star break, maybe. I have to go back and look. He's playing some first because it limits throwing, so the elbow's still an issue. But you're right. If he could catch and give Naylor a day off against lefties, because Naylor's playing against some lefties, because you have Fry DHing, and then you have to play someone at catcher, and it's Bo Naylor, and he can't hit lefties. And then when he needs a day off, it's Austin Hedges. So you're sacrificing one spot in the order there. I just don't know. Will an injured list stint heal what's going on with Fry? I don't know, because I don't know the medicals. All I know is Stephen Vogt says, and we always say, be careful what you believe with Vogt, but he's not going to sit here and Vogt's not going to sit here and say, well, he's dealing with injuries if it doesn't mean anything. If there was no injuries, he just wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
So clearly he's dealing with something, but he's very valuable to this team. He makes them better against lefties. He is very well loved in the clubhouse, so he means a lot. And for this team to be any good, who knows? I mean, he was good against righties for a little bit this year. I can't say for certain anything, if the medicals are messing up his ability to hit right-handers. Maybe he's, we talked about, Lane Thomas, I think at this point has to be a platoon player until he gets his feet under him.
Then he's never going to get his feet under him. It's part of the problem there too.
Yeah,
because you're not going to face enough lefties. So you can't do that either.
I know.
He's going to have to face righties to get his feet.
Yeah. And David Fry, the same with him. Like, you already know he can crush lefties. I don't know how good he can be against righties. Can he be, we talked about how Lane Thomas was like okay against right-handers. It wasn't great, but he was passable. Maybe Fry is that good because he's a 90 for the year, but it's been a downhill slope for him since May, which is reportedly when the elbow injury started kicking in. So it's hard to pinpoint like how good he can be against righties, but he is clearly a valuable member of this roster and helps them a ton. But you're right, if he's not 100%, you can't hit him in the middle of the order. You can't hit him against righties, and you got to find other options. And I just don't know how long an injured list stint helps him out.
And in May, he was also rocking, a 380 BABIP. So we talked about BABIP a lot on this show. It's like he was a degree lucky, and even when he rocked the 88 in June, he was still a 327 BABIP. So he was still kind of lucky then. So I don't know what you do. I'm not saying like cut the guy. He's definitely part of this team, but I think it
just depends on how long
you've given him
is going to help him.
3 months to hit against righties, and he has not done it. That's not going to get better by giving him another month. Like, it's one thing to say a guy needs at bats they gave him at bats and it's not working.
Yeah. It comes down to health. I think how healthy is he and how much is that impacting what he can do. Speaking of health, let's talk about Clase pitching for the 4th day in a row. Let's get to those minor league updates. I was in Lake County on Tuesday. Lots to talk about on the rest of today's Lockdown Guardians.
Hey, let's talk about our good friends over at Ibotta. I've talked about the fact that who doesn't want free money, and that is what Ibotta is essentially giving you, because they're going to hook you up with deals, and the average Ibotta user earns $256 a year. Again, $256 a year. Think of all the game tickets you could buy with that. Think of all the liquid IV you could buy with $256 a year. Think of all the deals you could do on Prize Picks with that. There's so many things you could do. Other apps gives you points. Those don't amount to much, but with Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. And there's over 60 million people using the app. It's not, 5 people. There's 60 million users for a reason. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta. I'm going to sit here and do it on my phone when Justin does the next ad read. You go to Ibotta, download the app, use the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use that code LOCKEDONMLB.
Let's talk about our friends at eBay Motors. Drive, passion, patience. The formula for winning championships, being patient with Emmanuel Clase as he pitches 4 days in a row. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. Emmanuel Clase is their ride or die. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, whatever you're into. Speed, power, style. eBay Motors has you covered. Over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for with the eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. All the parts you need, the prices you want. It is easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins like the Guardians have been doing 4 in a row. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Matinee on Wednesday for the Guardians as they wrap up. I'm sorry, it's not a matinee on Wednesday. It's 6:40 again. I got ahead of myself. Check the Sirius XM app, search Guardians to find that broadcast at 6:40. Not a matinee against the Cubs. One guy who should not be pitching on Wednesday, Jeff, is Emmanuel Clase, but give him credit. He's thrown 54 pitches in 4 days. And I know you weren't a big fan of him throwing 4 days in a row, but they got the win in front of them. And I'll just say, like, they're off Thursday. You don't pitch them on Wednesday, obviously, and you give them 2 days in a row off. Hopefully that helps. Gaddis and Smith, I assume, are not available because they've pitched 2 days. No, they didn't pitch Monday, so they pitched
Monday,
Tuesday.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. Barlow, everybody should be available tomorrow except for Clase. So that's I don't know. Pedro Avila through 29.
He's probably not available. Yeah, he's the guy who's probably not available. Their newest back-end arm, Pedro Avila.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about that on Tuesday's show. We said, does Pedro Avila need to move up in your order of who you're using? And he was the first guy out of the pen. So right now, your first guys out of the pen when you need someone are Avila or Cade Smith. And they went to Avila. They went to Smith. They went to Gaddis. They went to Clase. And guess what? You had 1, 2, 3, 4 base runners all night off your bullpen who went 3 2/3 innings, no runs, and 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. God, where would this team be without Emmanuel Clase? Where would they be without Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, and Pedro Avila? Right. Shift things around in the bullpen, and like I said, Pedro Avila's got to be one of your first guys out of the pen now, and not just for garbage time.
No, I mean,
I can't believe we're there.
We've needed him. And it's funny because he was definitely a player where we were like, this is not going to be the guy where we were talking about potentially replacing him, right?
No, now it's Nick Sandlin, who still hasn't gone down. It was Strzelecki who went down on Tuesday.
That surprised me.
To bring up Matthew Boyd. Yeah, so Strzelecki's got one more option left. I know people get confused about this, so I'll reframe it real quick. So players still have 3 option years once they're out of the 40-man roster. Those once a player's been sent down, I believe, for 15 days or 20 days, the option is burned. Strzelecki had this year as an option year, which is his last option year, but players can be sent down to AAA or whatever level 5 times without being exposed to waivers. The 6th time they are exposed to waivers. So that was the 5th time Strzelecki's been sent down. The next time the Guardians recall him, if they do, they can't option him down that loop without putting him through waivers first. So who knows? He got to Cleveland in the first place. September might make it easier. I don't know. But Avila right now is irreplaceable, which is crazy to me. Jeff, let's get to those minor league promotions. So Tuesday night was the high A debut of Ralphy Velazquez. That was a big one. Cooper Ingle, friend of the show, is in Akron. He did not play on Tuesday, I believe, but we know that he was crushing the ball since he came on Lockdown Guardian. So, hey, again, if you're listening to the show and you're a prospect or you're an agent, send him your way. We'll give him the bump. Jacob Kozar gets to go to Lake County, which is great. They didn't have any catching options in Lynchburg to send up to replace Cooper Ingle, so Kozar it is. Well, that'll be fun. I wouldn't sleep on Wilfredo Antunes. He didn't play Tuesday. I don't know how much he's going to play. He's an interesting character from what I've heard. But the guy's got a good
physical traits.
Yes, there are good physical traits. He has some power. He has some speed. He can throw the ball from the outfield. He can maybe pass in center field occasionally, probably more of a right fielder. He's just one of those guys who has to like kind of put it all together, like harness it, like, you know, like just focus all the energy on the game. Yorman Gomez has been interested in Lynchburg. He's going to be in the Lake County rotation. That should be a lot of fun. And then, hey, you got Bennett Thompson, Garrett Howe, Ryan Cesarini in Lynchburg, Caden Favors in Lynchburg. That's a lot of fun. A lot of cool stuff going on prospect-wise. I know a lot of people were asking why wasn't Jason Churio promoted to Lake County. Quite simply, it's just playing time, I think. They don't have anybody in Lake County they can send up to Akron who's like performing really well. Maybe you can release somebody or put them on the developmental list, maybe. But they got to create playing time for Churio. I wouldn't be surprised if Lynchburg doesn't make the playoffs, because remember, they need Lynchburg to have guys to play right now too, not just Lake County. But when the playoffs inch a little bit closer for Lake County, I would not be surprised if Churio makes it there. But fun time in the system. I'm excited about all these moves, honestly. Like, I want to see Ingle crush it in Double-A like he has been in High A. Ralphie and you know, didn't do anything in his High A debut, but the Great Lakes Loons, the High A affiliate of the Dodgers. So that game I was at Tuesday went to extra innings, and the pitcher got behind 2-0 on Ralphie in extra innings, and they just intentionally walked him. And I'm like, why are we intentionally walking guys in the minor league level, especially at High A? Like AAA is one thing, I guess, but High A, like, who's benefiting from the intentional walk? Not the hitter, not the pitcher. I know you're trying to put a guy in, you're trying to set up double play, but it's like, we're trying to develop here. Winning, I know the Dodgers, I will say the Dodgers do sort of put an emphasis on winning in the minors, which is not the case for all minor league teams. But the intentional walk at High A, come on, that's not benefiting anybody. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Pitch to the guy. I want to see him hit.
Well, is it stupid, or is it just because you're frustrated that you didn't get to see him, or is it both?
Both. It's both. It's always both.
Yeah, it is silly. Let's be honest. Like,
I've heard it both ways.
That you, there's no point.
See if you get that reference.
I don't. Sorry.
Somebody comment and get that reference. I've heard it both ways.
But yeah, it's might as well like see what guys can do. If you're pitching around someone in the minors, you're a little too precious, and you need to just.
Well, that was the manager.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
it's the manager's being too precious.
The manager. Technically, it wasn't the manager. The manager for Great Lakes got thrown out.
Everyone got thrown out.
Two. It's being on two pitches. This umpire ejected 4 different people from the Great Lakes Loons. The manager,
guy's a joke.
2 hitters and the hitting coach in the span of 2 pitches. And the guy apparently threw out 6 people in a game last week too, which is just, it's wild. But Zach Fascia got cut as part of the room to make room for all these. Yeah,
they were apparently didn't need to do that. I was talking with your friend and mine, Everyday Arthur. I was like, how many more do they need to cut?
Arthur, shout out.
Because Arthur's my go-to for these things. I was like, so with Fascia, and he's like, they actually didn't need to even remove him. So that was a bonus removal. I mean, they had so many catchers, they just didn't have a spot for the guy.
No,
he wasn't even a draft pick, right? He wasn't even a minor league like Seth called. So Seth, you know, Seth Cadell, like, let's be honest, Seth Cadell and him are probably going to stay in the organization. Cadell already has stayed, right?
Cadell's a bullpen catcher or something, or a bullpen coach already. So
because you probably make more as that than a player anyways. So that's, I wouldn't be surprised because didn't you say like people love Zach Fascia? So he'll probably stick around.
They love Joe Donovan. I think they like Zach, but I heard more about Joe Donovan, who
went on to a coaching job. I guarantee you he's making more money as an assistant coach in Michigan than he would have made in the minors.
100%.
So yeah, I think yeah, you know, there's a chance he sticks. This organization loves catching. If not, you know, he did the dirty work for a few years of being a backup.
And he moved up from Lake County and Akron, Columbus, and you know, that's always appreciative when you can do that. But yeah, exciting times. I think that's not the end of the promotions in the minors. We'll see what other guys move along. I'm excited to see what Caden Favors does at Lynchburg. We'll see about Bennett Thompson. Howe and Cesarini should be interesting. And Cozart should be playing on Wednesday. It's a day game in Lake County on Wednesday, but he should be playing on Wednesday. And don't worry about Travis Bazzana. I know it doesn't look great right now. He is walking. There is some passivity there. He is taking a lot of pitches, but I think he's just kind of caught in between right now what he's looking for. Our friend of the show, Jeff Ponce, was telling me that he had some of these issues in the cave a couple years ago, and then he settled down, got his feet under him, and then he took off and won the MVP. Not saying it'll be that easy for him right now, but he's going to play some back-to-backs this week, I heard, which is good. That's only will be his second time doing that, so I'm not worried. The only thing I can say is, unfortunately, I think the time is just not going to happen for him to get promoted too high this year.
I also want to point out,
I'm not worried.
For everyone who had the bet on about 2 weeks for Jazz Chisholm to have to go on the DL after he got traded.
Is he hurt?
Yeah, he's on the DL with a UCL injury already.
Oh my God!
I again want to point out, and in the comments, people keep saying the Guardians could have matched the Rosa. They should have paid more to get a Rosarena. They didn't have those type of prospects. You can go back and listen to our show where we discussed it. Don't use outdated prospect rankings. Please don't use outdated prospect rankings. They are worthless. But yeah, no, right now, here's the thing. All the hand wringing and people saying this team was a fraud and they were collapsing and they're falling apart and they're terrible and that the manager's terrible and the front office is terrible and ownership is terrible and the players are all no good bums. They're currently have the best record in baseball again. So yeah, sometimes, just
they're back to the best
need a
record
little
in baseball,
patience.
1-4 in a row. Yeah, you just really hope this team can avoid some of the peaks and valleys going forward. That's what they really need. Is they need to,
because every team
stop
has them.
losing stuff. Yeah,
the Phillies are in the midst of one. The Yankees had one in May where people thought that it's just. I'm not gonna sit here and start whistling and singing the song "Patience."
Get it out of the way now.
I don't want to get us demonetized, but that song really needs to be the theme for a major league season. But we want to thank all of you out there for joining us, all the kind words, all the support. We really appreciate it. Everyone's sticking with us now that the fun of the deadline and the draft is done. We know that we had some people just here for that, so we thank you to everyone who are sticking along, all those everydayers.
Can we talk magic number yet, Jeff? It's 40. Can we talk magic number?
I think once you get lower than 37, you can start talking. There's a reference
37.
For people.
Okay.
37.
Okay.
That's a reference for people. People will.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
Hey, it's another day on the calendar. The Twins can't catch them because the Guardians won. Again, keep pointing that out. They're going to be up against the calendar at some point.
Yep. No. And hey, now that there's not fast channels, we can go a little longer like this and have some fun. Be a little unclean at the end, in terms of just snappiness. But we are going to end it here. Again, we thank you all for coming and joining us on this fun journey of baseball discussion for your best record in baseball. First place in the AL Central. Just closing it out. Thank you for joining us. Remember to rate and review, do all that stuff. I'm losing my mind. Thank you all.
Let's
go, Guardians, go.